Hi, good evening, everyone. Um, we are glad to be present as part of PostgreSQL.Russia here, and we are presenting a second time. Last time we have given a presentation on security concept in India, and second we are giving on our own experience of migration in Russia in front of you all professionals. Myself, Premnath, I'm from India, and I have past 7+ years of experience on PostgreSQL as a database administrator. Present, I was working for a CSG International in India, and from past 1 year, I was being completely involved in all the migration project. Here, I do have my colleague, Abhinav, who can share the presentation along with me.
Thanks, Prem. Good evening, all. This is Abhinav. I have been working as an Oracle database administrator for the last 9 to 10 years, and for the last 2 years, I have been working as a Postgres administrator as well. During these 2 years, I have been involved mostly in the migration of Oracle databases to Postgres, since CSG has a lot of databases on Oracle. So that's what during this journey of 2 years, or whatever we have experienced during the migration. So we have put that all information as a life cycle through different stages, right from the initiation of the project to end of the project. So which we are going to discuss now, all the steps.
Normally, when we are starting an application or any activity, normally there are few questions which comes to our mind. Why we have to do that work, what I have to do, and how I can do, and in what time, when I can do the perfect time. We, in our experience also from the migration point of view, we also got similar questions in our mind. Why I have to migrate my existing database, which is running successfully without any issues for a customer, without any business impact or anything. And also what I have to migrate, and how I can migrate the database from other RDBMS to PostgreSQL, and which is the perfect time without any damage to the business impact or something, when I can migrate my database from other RDBMS to PostgreSQL. First, why to migrate? Normally, we do have applications or products where customer needs keep on increasing the features, or also keep on enhancing the product, with which he need more profit, and he should spend much less amount for his business needs. Here we can go with a short example here. When we reduce the cost of product continuously compared to the existing one, if suppose for an example, Oracle is a much expensive licensing part, and we need it to be reduced the cost of the product, and we think to plan to migrate to PostgreSQL, which is an open source one here, where the cost of the product automatically reduces and the profit increases. And also, if a product with enhancing features, and the day-to-day market is continuously changing, and there may be new features to be added according to the environment of market, everything. So they keep on increasing the product, enhancing the product, we can also gain the profit for the business.
So in the last slide, we discussed like product enhancement and the reduction of the cost of the product will combinedly increase the profit of any organization. And next comes to the what to migrate. So if it comes to any system, IT system, we have majorly 3 layers: presentation, application, and data layer. So today's our focus is on the database layer, actually. So, and Postgres has given that scope of focusing on the database layer, with which we can reduce the cost of the product by migrating from the licensed products to the free source. And when it comes to what to migrate, so I want to focus on few of the things like we have, in our experience, we have the databases of pretty big size, like 1 terabyte. Maybe 1 terabyte is not a big size, but when it comes to the data types, it matters actually. So mainly the large objects. So we face this issue when we tried to migrate the large objects from Oracle to Postgres. So 300 GB of large objects, it has taken around 1.5 days for us to migrate. So next thing is it necessary to migrate all of the data? Is 300 GB of data is active, whether it's being consumed by the customer or not? So that's what we identified, and we talked to the customer, and we got to know that 300 GB is not the active data which they are using. So with that, we came to know that we have reduced the data. Like they told around, okay, we don't use this much amount of data, so we can leave some of the data at Oracle side itself. Then rest of the amount you can move. So with that, we have reduced like around maybe from 300 GB it has come to 20 GB. So which has made us the migration very easy in terms of time consumption. So that's one of the thing which we have to look at what to migrate when we are doing the migration process.
And next question comes to how I have to migrate. I have chosen what are the things I have to migrate, and now how comes with how to migrate from other DBMS to RDBMS to Postgres. We do have multiple methodologies where we have to observe all the DDL triggers, functions, stored procedures, views. There are multiple things we have to look into the database level, which when we are converting from other RDBMS to Postgres, whether all these are equivalent, do we have equivalent data types, or the code is equivalent, and will it suits with the Postgres or not? We do have a couple of tools in the market, open source market. For a example, Vora to PG is one of the open source tool for migrating from Oracle to Postgres, which also gives the complete assessment report. What are the compatibilities? How we can convert the data, and also what are the data types are equivalent and which is inequivalent, and whether the entire code or data also migrates or not. This Vora to PG can convert the data, all entire database or schema from Oracle to Postgres, or else a periodic data or particular data we wanted to migrate, move to the particular Postgres. It also automatically converts the data structure, everything into the Postgres compatibility, and loads to us.
Right. Yeah. So next thing is when to migrate. So migration timing is also very important. So here, definitely migration is not a simplest way. So it needs a lot of time, and mainly a lot of validation is also required. So whenever we have enough time, then only we have to plan for migration. And less business impact due to downtime. So we have downtime when we are doing the migration. So whenever we have that particular time where there is no business impact, so probably we can choose that as our correct time for the migration. And the last one, which I want to stress, which we have implemented in our project, is after the data purge retention. So every database may have certain purge retention policies where we do the purging of the data. So here, when we choose the migration after the data purge, so definitely the amount of data in Oracle will be reduced. So a lot of databases you have like data purge policies. So it's better to select the time for migration soon after the purge of the data. So this is the best time we can reduce the time of the migration. So, and this is what we have used in our project soon after the purging of the data.
Here comes the few of the stages of life cycle which we pass in our we have experienced in our work environment, and we have segregated a few stages and made it as a life cycle, and which we are going to explain is today. First, product and applications categorization. When coming to the application categorization, we have to consider, we mostly consider three parts, complexity, business impact, and the cost of product. Complexity in the sense whether all the DDL or is the product has any complexity of transferring a data or a code from Oracle to our DB2 or any other RDBMS to PostgreSQL, or is there any lag of converting the code or data, anything. First, we have to identify the complexity, how critical, how much risk it will be having in it. And second, when we focus on business impact, we also should see the change of migration should not impact the customer. When we are having a huge database and a huge complexity value, automatically there will be a high risk of migrating thing. And also cost of product. And we are thinking to migrate from other RDMS to PostgreSQL. Always the main motive is, one of the main motive is to reduce the cost of the product. In that part also, we should make sure our product and requirements meets the expectations. And choose.
Yeah, so here we have divided the product like three parameters. We have considered complexity, business impact, and product cost, and we have segregated low, medium, and high. So we can do some combinations, and with these combinations, we can get the decision like what would be the ideal product for starting, actually. So always starts with an application. So most of the organizations may have a lot of applications, a lot of products supporting. So, and each and every application differs absolutely. So here we have to just see the applications, like how critical is the application, how complex is the application, and if we change anything on the application, what would be the business impact, and how much amount of cost reduction which we are going to get by this. So with these combinations, we have given some diagrammatical representation here. So with this, we can take the decision like what to start with. So always start with the less business impact one so that you don't have much customer impact. And with that, you can get some confidence, obviously, and then you get some experience of migration. So what all the things which may face, and then we can go through the complexity and even the product cost. So this is a diagrammatical representation. Yeah.
Oh, next, migration assessment. Next stage we have segregated as migration assessment, where here the exact thing, what we have to assess thing, like what exactly have to migrate. Here we will be checking the complete, in this stage we will be escalating all the DDLs, DMLs, and the query structure and the data type, what is the data type, and how we can move it from Oracle to Postgres in such a way, by whether we can take a dump and directly import into the Postgres, or we have to use a particular tool which can automatically assess the change and gives the suggestions whether what are the changes we need to do, what it can do automatically, and what we need to do manually or something. Here, I can go with some of the data type compatibilities. These are few of the examples I can say where we are differentiating from the data types from Oracle, DB2 and PostgreSQL. Uh, in normally, when the migration thing, we can, as we are comparing the data types, here we can see one of the example is in Oracle, we do have only the number. We don't have an integer inside the Oracle, where we the same functionality can be matched in the Postgres with a integer value. The data type is a variation, but the functionality will be the similar thing. There are this is the compatibility we can say from Oracle to Postgres data type or somewhere. And another one we can give the varchar2. In varchar2 from Oracle side, we'll be passing the values of in a bytes or a character. But in Postgres, we do have a characters only. In such a way, we have when we are planning to migrate the data, assess the data, we have to make sure that we do have only the characters, not the bytes of a varchar. So in such a way, we have to plan the assessment, what we have to do in that. Data volume comparative.
So next coming to after the data types compatibility. So data volume is also important thing. So how big my source database is and what is the target database, whether it can fit completely or not. So this is one of the metrics which we have created. Maybe a few of the DB2 values are missing, which we could not get. But these are few of the compatibility max sizes of database table, row sizes, rows per table, so which we have to consider while migrating the data from Oracle to Postgres or any RDBMS.
And programming compatibilities. We will be seeing whether this Oracle has a triggers, and in Postgres we don't have a compound triggers, which Oracle has. In such a way, we have to segregate all the programming compatibilities, the cursors, reference cursors, anonymous blocks, and parallel queries, cached, supplied packages. And we do, from PostgreSQL, we don't have a stored procedures till 11 version. Till the older version, older of 11, we don't have a stored procedures in PostgreSQL, which is incompatible for migrating. Now, from 11, we do have stored procedures, 11 plus versions, and which has made a bit more attraction to the customers or anyone to as a DBA also to migrate from other DBMS to Postgres, which has equivalent compatibilities. We don't have much differences, and the cost of the product also very less compared to the Oracle. Here I can give one of the example assessment report from which we got from Oracle to Postgres tool, which it will automatically compares all these thing like number of rows, number of indexes, whether all these can be compatible to PostgreSQL or not, with the comments. What are the things we have to do? What are the type of action we have to take it out? And also it gives the complete assessment report for us where without any much struggle, we can easily find out the way and easily find out the issue where we have to have a manual interruption or manual intervention also. Here there are some migration levels too, which it automatically gives the code where we have to rewrite the code and where it automatically converts the code in various levels of migration.
So once we get the assessment report, then we can go with the resource planning. So here, when it comes to the resources, we may think more about what kind of hardware we need. So basically, since we have already know our product is working good in Oracle, so I think we may set the baseline like, okay, we can go with the same kind of hardware which we were using in Oracle, and obviously the operating system will be same, whatever we are using on the source side. And then dependent packages. So we have to install all the packages required for the Postgres and the Postgres installation. And then the required tools. So what are the tools which we need for the migration? So what we have chosen for the migration. So whether we are choosing the Oracle PG or some other tools. So, and not only that, so if you want to access the data, using PG admin, you can access, and any foreign data wrappers if we require. So we can choose what all the required tools, and we can plan that. And then the resource identification. So here in our company, so when we have chosen for the migration, so there were no resources on Postgres. So there was only 1 or 2 resources in Postgres. So we have to identify what all the resources we required. When it comes to resources, I think we can call human resource is also a very important resource. So here they have identified few Oracle resources we have trained, and we have been working in this migration project. And then knowledge transfer, obviously, so you need to have a knowledge on both of the sides. Not it's only for Postgres, you need to have a knowledge on both Oracle and Postgres side. So what kind of knowledge transfer is required, you can plan and you can prepare the KT. And test strategy. So validation is also very important. So after the migration, so what kind of tests we have to do? So maybe we have a lot of tests like load testing, performance testing. So how our application is working now, based on that, what kind of tests we have to do after the migration. So that strategy we have to build out at this stage. Capacity planning and server build. So we always do the capacity planning. So even for the existing systems also, we forecast our capacity. So how much storage is required, what amount of CPU we require, what amount of RAM we require. So here, when we plan for migration, so we need to plan like how much of CPU is required when I move to Postgres, and how much of RAM, storage, network, and backup. So here in our strategy, when we are planning for this, so we took the baseline, Oracle baseline itself. So how much CPU we have used on Oracle, so we have used same amount of CPU on Postgres, RAM, and even the storage. Storage we have different when it comes from Oracle to Postgres, so the different kinds of like database files, redo log files. So we have mapped the same thing to PG wall segments. So that kind of mapping we have done, and we have planned for the setting of the storage. And networking, so mainly networking when we have the high availability configuration. So what kind of network do we require to configure the high availability? And as well as the last thing is backup strategy. So what kind of backup strategy we need? So that's also one of the important thing. So whatever the kind of backups we are using on the Oracle, I think all things we can do in Postgres, so that we can plan in this stage.
And schema and code conversion. When in Postgres, the ANSI standard is, we have an ANSI standard, which, and the database, and the data types also make converting the schema without any issue. So we can straightforwardly, all the equivalent parameters or all the equivalent data types or code, we can straightforwardly convert through any of the tool like Oracle PG, or we do have enterprise versions, EDB migration toolkit, and one of the replication tool, XDB replication, and such things. Sometimes not only the manual, not only this automatic tools 100% converts the data from Oracle to Postgres, we do require some of the manual power also to resolve the issue. And there are all the code will not be having or will not be calling through database level itself. No, yes, there may be few applications where we may call some of the queries or transactions from the application level. We normally concentrate during the migration, many of the things concentrate converting the database from Oracle to Postgres. And we forget, sometimes we may forget that we do have a code in application level, which any of the assessment tool or any of the migration tool will not automatically convert the code in application level, because we are not connecting any of the tool to the application. So we do have to change the code manually somewhere wherever we have embedded inside the application in the front end or application level.
So next comes the data migration and sync. So here we have various approaches to migrate the data from Oracle to Postgres. So we have few tools like, as already discussed, Ora to PG is one of the tool which not only converts the data, but it can also load the data, and it can also change the code, and PG loaders. So this PG loader probably, Prem, you have used in DB2, because DB2 was not that much compatible when we migrated to Postgres. So we had to migrate, we had to recreate the table, and we had extracted the data from the DB2 in a flat format, and we have used the PGs to load the data into the database. So this is, we haven't used this for Oracle, but we have used this PG loaders for DB2 since it's not that much compatible. And when it comes to the Sloaney, it's the replication. It can do the heterogeneous replication from Oracle to Postgres. So when it comes to our products, so our products are coupled actually. So we have a few databases like Oracle. So it stands on one application and this stands on one application. So, but this needs the data from this Oracle. So out of these two, one is complex and one is a bit easy. So what we decided is we thought of migrating the less complexity one. So we have migrated that. Then it went to Postgres, and one is sitting on Oracle. So, and then we have to identify how to get the data from Oracle to Postgres. So that's where we can use the Sloaney. We have like XDB also, which is the EDB one, which is a good tool which we have used also. And DB links and foreign data wrappers. So DB links we can use when we need the data from the other databases just in time. Not all the time, so all the time daily schedule we can go with Sloaney, but whenever we require the data from the other databases, probably we can go with DB links and foreign data wrappers.
Testing and tuning. Once we completely migrate the database, next thing we have to do the complete testing of the migration, whether the migration is completely successful or not. First, we'll be checking the application connectivity, as we'll be passing the test server or a test application to connect to the database and see all the authentications and permissions and user permissions, everything has compatible, and everything has completely migrated into the Postgres format and working fine. For example, we have a PG admin tool, which is open source one, where we can easily validate the data. And also, not only the data conversion we'll be looking, we also need to look for the performance issues. The memory, how much memory from Oracle, how much memory the particular transactions or particular queries are taking out, and how much it is taking in PostgreSQL, whether we do have any possibility of tuning it. In such a way, we have to tune all these memory and CPU I/O issues. And also we can get most of the information of database level through logs. And anything logging, we can also from the logs or anything we have to look for the any locking and any queries are getting performance issue like slow running query or whether the query is getting blocked with other tables. In such a way we have to completely test thoroughly in the test environment before we go for the production. And also, not only testing these performance-related parameters or concepts, we do need to test the backup strategies. We do have various methodologies of backup, like logical backup and physical backup. Through physical backup, we'll be using PG-based backup, and the logical backup, we have PG dump all, where we can extract particular data or particular table, or we need to have an entire file system level backup through base backup or something. Based on the company's SLA and the retention policy we have, we do need to test whether the backup was completely getting successful or not. Because if there is any disaster occurs and something happens bad in our environment, we do completely depends on the backup only. And HA configuration, many of the organizations will look for a high availability thing. Unfortunately, we don't have a inbuilt high availability where failover in PostgreSQL. We do have to use some, either we have to write a scripts, shell scripts or some other Python scripts or anything, or we have to use any of the tools like EFM, Enterprise Failover Manager or such tools. We also, in PostgreSQL, we do have a streaming replications thing. So we always look for the active passive similarly, like replicating the database from one node to the another node. And also we can make complete, if there is any issue or anything, we can also easily find out from the alerts that we set from our monitoring or through scripts. Yeah, because all of the time resources we cannot be sit in front of the laptop system or in front of the server and keep a complete look onto the environment. When we set some of the alerts, we can get which can be notified when there is any criticality, and where the resource can come and look into the criticality and resolve the issue. Reorganization, and sometimes after the migration, we can have normally periodically we can give the maintenance activities like vacuuming, and re-index we rarely do when there is a corruption, something we found like index is not working and we need maintenance on index things. That time we can look for the re-indexing concept.
Next comes to the production go live. So whatever the testing and tuning that Prem discussed. So once everything goes fine, so I think we can plug our database into production by cutovering, by changing our DNS entries or pointing our application to the Postgres database. And first step connections, we think that initially when we plug our production database or once we get into the production, so basically we can do a kind of simple testing with read-only if we have any read-only reporting or dashboards. So probably we can start with that kind of thing, and once we feel that everything is fine, I think next we can go to the transaction level, like read-write. So we have divided this into read-only and read-write. So we can go first read-only and then read-write. So that is the, I think, best kind of methodology we can use. So if all went fine, so I think the last thing is a decommissioning of our source databases. So before decommissioning, I think in Oracle we have one thing that we can export the code from Oracle or DB2 into any files, just in case if something happens. So we have the code. Code is bit, I think, complex to rewrite. If we have involved a lot of our time into rewriting the code, while migrating. So it is best to take the export of the code and then keep the code with you before decommissioning of the Oracle. And then you can take the backup of databases, but I don't think this is not that important because data migration is simpler compared to the code conversion in case if you want to come back. And then you can decommission the database. Probably this is one of the diagrammatical representation which we have given. So, yep.
And once all these above stages is successfully done, we can probably say that we have saved some of the money to the company. But never expect that income or profit can be shared to the employees.
And we don't want to give the exact figures, but we got like 1/3 of the expenses have been reduced when we moved from Oracle to Postgres. So this is what we have achieved during the last 1 year of our migration. And we have a few more products which we are targeting, which are a bit complex, so that we, starting from this year probably, that we may learn a lot of things from that applications which have a lot of complexities.
That's it.
Thank you.
From our end.
Thank you.
If you have any question and answers, we are happy to.
Thank you for your speech. My question is about capacity planning. This is one of the first steps in migration process.
Yeah.
For example, I have some service working with Oracle database,
Okay.
and it has some level of performance, yes? What kind of metrics should I analyze to make capacity planning? Do I need to analyze some workload repository or some performance metrics?
I think from Oracle side, we have the workload repository reports, AWR reports. You can gather that you have the report generation with your retention, like take 1 month of retention of AWR. So when the load is high, take 1 AWR, and when the load is low, take 1 AWR. So I think from that reports, we can get the clear information of even top running queries during that time, and how much capacity, how much CPU has been used at the OS level, and the percentage of the instance as well from the Oracle. I think this information you can correlate with this. We can at least identify how much of RAM we can allocate to the Postgres side. So this AWR report, I think you can use that as a baseline for configuring the Postgres. I know that Oracle has automatic memory management. I think in Postgres, we don't have that much automatic memory management. So this is the starting phase probably, and once we migrate, maybe by seeing how the Postgres is working, and if we have any tuning, based on that, I think we can increase or reduce. So I think that's what we have done from our side.
Thank you.
Есть еще вопросы?
Any more questions?
Thank you a lot for the presentation. So my question is, have you ever encountered any databases any Oracle databases which were highly dependent on the PLSQL code? Say I've seen systems which were fully dependent on the module which generates HTTP requests from inside the database. So have you ever encountered something like that, and do you have a migration experience on systems dependent on the database code?
Honestly, when we have done Oracle, so we did not face that much issues on the Oracle side. But we have done one POC on SQL Server, I remember that. So from SQL Server, when we did the POC, so how much code is, I think you know that.
It was when we are doing the POC of MS SQL to Postgres, most of the code has got failed with most of the code in the sense like stored procedures. Most of the code we have
So-
rewritten in the stored procedure.
So it need a lot of manual work. So, but we did not do that. So, because due to the time consumption, so they have stopped the project. So probably we may start the project.
Oh, so you didn't rewrite it, you decided to leave it as is?
Because as a DBA, so I may not be that much perfect to rewrite the code. So we took the help of the application developers. When we requested them, they told that we don't have time now. Probably you can stop this, we can plan it later. So that's what the response got from the developers. So I don't think it's completely stopped. I think we may plan when we have enough time.
In that project, we have rewritten only most of many of the procedures has been converted automatically with the tool. Only few procedures which we had to rewrite through the application team. Rest the code, rest of the data, everything has been successfully migrated without an issue.
Few of the things did not work, so that's, yeah.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Еще кто-нибудь хочет?
Any more questions? You can ask your question in Russian. We have simultaneous translation in the room, so your question will be translated.
А за счет чего?
How do you reduce this 30% cut of exploitation of capex? Once again, so how do you achieve this 30% cut of cost when you migrate from Oracle to Postgres? So you mentioned that you can reduce the capex by 30%, by 1/3.
Comparing to the product cost from Oracle to Postgres, Oracle has a much licensing cost and the product cost is too high. When we compare to the Postgres, Postgres is completely an open source one. When we opt for any support from any of the vendor, there will be minimal amount of cost will be looking out. Where in that part, mostly much of the amount we can save in support level and the open as by choosing the open source one.
That's the question.
As all the compatibility we have the application is running successfully in Oracle side, the same result we have seen in the Postgres side also. But the only thing we have done is when we migrated from Oracle to Postgres, we see the product cost has been reduced very much, and which also customer is also happy with what he was spending and what he was gaining on.
Я хочу задать вопрос.
I want to ask a question. So you mentioned about stored procedures migration, code migration from one platform to another. As far as I understand, when you face this kind of problem, you will probably stop the project. You will stop migration because it will require too much time. As far as I get, right now, we can do it only manually. We have to rewrite the code. There are no tools available to migrate the code somehow or to at least automate this process. Is it true?
Yes, the code which we got failed, in our environment, we have used the PostgreSQL 9.6 version, where we don't have a stored procedures and something where we had to rewrite most of the code into manually, and we do have from 11 version of Postgres and above, we do got the procedures, and we are also in a testing process to migrate to 11 directly and see whether all the code can convert without any manual intervention or something.
Еще есть вопросы?
Any more questions? Thank you very much for your talk. The question is, in Oracle, we use a lot of packages. What do you do with them? How do you convert packages to Postgres that doesn't support packages?
Yes, just a hand over to my colleague. Oracle compatibilities packages. Can you fire the question once?
In Oracle, packages are used a lot. So how do you transfer packages to Postgres that doesn't support packages?
More compatible packages and how we can segregate in Postgres if the packages are not available.
It's about the code.
Oracle.
Okay. I didn't get really that. What's that?
Oh, sorry, we
Packages,
Okay. Yeah.
Oracle packages.
Yeah, Oracle packages. You are talking about the compatible.
А совместимость
There are no packages in PostgreSQL. They only have stored procedures.
в Postgres.
There are no packages in Postgres. Postgres only has stored procedures, and packages. It is a SQL object. So
This we face the issue for the project which we are doing actually. But for the last project we did not face the packages. So now I think we have to rewrite, but we haven't really done that from our side. So probably that application, we have segregated that to the DBA and application developers, so they are doing that. So to be honest, I'm not that familiar with that conversion.
Спасибо, спасибо.
Еще кто-нибудь?
anyone else with the question? Could you say you were saying about hardware, for example, let's say the previous system at Oracle, it needed 4 CPUs and 16 gigabyte of RAM, and so what will be the hardware that you would plan for Postgres? Just some really precise examples of the requirement for Oracle and for Postgres, so system requirements.
So hardware requirement for Postgres, actually, we have used the same kind of hardware. I don't know exactly what's that, because we have the private cloud in our environment actually. So we usually go and just click on the button, the server will be built. So I really don't know like the hardware.
Ну хорошо, скажите, Postgres нужно.
But could you at least say, does Postgres needs more or less than Oracle? Because I have for the same system on Postgres, does it need better, more hardware or less hardware?
We have used the same hardware. We haven't used a different hardware because our hardware, our infrastructure sits on the same data center. So we have the same clusters built on the private cloud. So we have used the same hardware and same configuration to start with. We haven't used a different one.
Хорошо, а время вот.
Okay, and then response time. Did it become better? So did it become smaller or bigger, the response time?
Какая система производит?
So which system is performing better, my question, with the same hardware?
I think Postgres was working fine, right?
When comparing, coming to the hardware part, we have chosen mostly the Oracle hardware and the Oracle type of memory, say, and CPU and thing. And it all depends on the application and the functionality. Once it was come into the Postgres, and by complete testing and tuning only, we can able to find what are the, whether we need to enhance the hardware or configuration or something.
I think to me, from our application developers, so which they did test, so they found the better response time on the Postgres side. So
Ну, а требования тогда...
Then requirements for the disk systems, so where the requirements are higher for disk systems.
we have used the pure storage. We have we have migrated recently to the pure storage actually. So pure storage was much faster than compared to the normal storage which we were using before. So that was the only change actually which we did in the Postgres.
Давайте, время уже тогда заканчивать.
Okay, we're running out of time, so let's thank our presenters, our speakers. Thank you.